Morning, everybody. After the Easter break, we've shifted, I would say, probably into high gear on the budget conversations here. And next week, we expect that the State Department division report will go to the full Finance Committee. The division report on transportation will go there, and the division report on judiciary. So we're moving along pretty well. Chairs are working, and all the Senate staff are working long hours to get this budget off the floor so we can get it into conference committee. It's the significant work of the session. And I just want to remind everybody that, you know, the state budget has been, I would argue, almost neglected for the last 10 years. And the problems have been kicked down the road and kicked down the road. And now we find ourselves in a situation where we've got a governor and legislative leaders that want to solve the state's structural problems in a fair, honest way, without accounting gimmicks, without shifts. And that's hard work. But we are not going to fix every problem that the state is facing that have accumulated over the last 10 years in one budget cycle. This is going to take more than one budget cycle to get most Minnesotans, I think, where they want us to be. So we're doing our best to take on the challenge that was handed to us that's been kicked down the road for more than a decade.
Just quickly, next week, it looks like the Finance Committee has already scheduled hearings for State Department's vets transportation and judiciary. That would be on Thursday for State Department of Transportation and Friday on judiciary. We will have floor sessions in the Senate on Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursday. Yeah, and I think that that's kind of the way that we're just going to start to process our bills. I think that nothing in particular really jumps out as one that should be overly lengthy. We want to hopefully start to clear the calendar, but we also want to make sure that the committees get enough time to start to work on their budget bills. So we just plan to kind of put our heads down and nose to the grindstone and get to work next week and start to work on this budget.
So as Senator Bakk said, we're returning from the legislative break. Our focus continues to be working on the budget. We do plan to get all the budget bills off the House floor by the end of this month, and we'll start that process next week with some of our budget bills going through the Ways and Means Committee. It is going to require, a significant amount of work to get these bills in shape. I think the chairs are actually doing a terrific job. I'm very pleased with the property tax bill that moved out of committee last week, and we'll be focusing a little bit more next week on a couple other ones, in particular Representative Mahoney's jobs bill, which I believe passed out of committee unanimously yesterday out of his committee, and is going to Ways and Means and is making a significant investment in the future of jobs and economic development in this state in effective programs that really do work. We cut that budget by 50% in the last budget cycle, and there were previous cuts that preceded that. This year we're putting a 50% increase into jobs and economic development because it is one of the priorities that we believe Minnesotans are looking for, in addition to investing in education and property tax relief. Over the break, Representative Doudt said that the Republican plan for solving our budget deficit, for paying back the schools, was to be patient with our economy, But that patience obviously is not going to pay back the $627 million deficit that we have. I guess he did pay back $10 million of it. But if you look at the chart here, you can see the two plans in comparison. The House GOP plan doesn't do anything to pay back our deficit. The House GOP plan and the patience that they advocate doesn't pay back the $850 million school shift. You all know that the last number that we have to work with to balance our budget to do our constitutional duty by the end of this session is based on the February forecast. And so patience with growing the economy is not an answer. I hope that the Republicans actually, are true to their word. Representative Doudt often says it's not your word but your actions that actually matter. His actions should be to come forward with a budget if he truly believes that he wants to participate in this process, he should come forward with either agreement on revenue increases or identify some cuts. All we've heard so far from the Republicans is they're not willing to cut anything either. And so really that's not an answer at all. And if they don't want to participate, I guess that's the choice that they can make. We hope that they do. Next week, jobs and economy will be the focus, as I said earlier. Representative Hausman is going to release her bonding bill proposal. In addition, Representative Mahoney, as I said, his jobs bill will be heard in Ways and Means. We think that those two bills and many of the other things, including particular investments in education, are really part of a broad economic vision for our state and for growing our future, growing the middle class. And I think this month is going to show Minnesotans even more what the Democratic vision for building an economic, competitive state, a state that works for middle-class Minnesotans, is going to look like. Representative Murphy.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, everyone, and especially to those who have joined us today to share your perspective. It's very important that you're here, and I'm glad to see you. Our members came back from the break mostly rested and focused on the work ahead, and as the Speaker has suggested, this next month is going to be a month of moving the budget bills out of committee through Ways and Means into the floor with the intention of getting those passed by the end of April. This week we saw Representative Dabney's bill on property tax relief and Representative Mahoney's bill come out of his committee dealing with jobs. Under the property tax bill, we're going to see the property tax relief for 300,000 homeowners and Minnesotans. More than 100,000 more Minnesotans will see relief as a result of his proposal, and each of those refunds should be about $212 to the homeowners. An increase to the renter's credit, which was cut in the last budget. 60,000 renters will see an average more of $179 as a result of that. That is money that middle-class Minnesotans, homeowners, and renters will be able to use, and that will propel the economy because we all participate in the economy. Representative Mahoney's bill is a $46 million investment in jobs and in our future. It's something that Minnesotans care deeply about. This is another area that was cut by the GOP in their last budget by more than 50%. And we know one of the keys to a future for everybody in Minnesota are strong jobs. Our way of working our way out of poverty and into the middle class is with strong jobs and opportunities, and we're committed to that. I think that the next month is going to be difficult for the legislature and challenging, but also very exciting. You can see spring in Minnesota. You can feel it here in the legislature as well. And in our work, we are working very hard to prepare Minnesota for a better future. We're up to the challenge. Thank you.
Oh, and I would like to add that Senator Sieben had her baby. If folks don't know, Greta, I think is her name. My middle name is Dion, so I'm hoping that it would be Greta Dion, but I'm not sure she's agreeable to that. But she did have it, and she sends her best.
I suspect it won't be Mel.
Senator Bakk, Representative Murphy outlined the House DFL property tax relief package. When will we see yours?
Well, you know, the tax bill has to be a House file, so it's not unusual for them to lead. Senator Skoye has about 60 bills in the tax committee yet to hear, so I do think I don't expect it'll be next week, sometime after that. But we do, our tentative schedule, I believe, is to have the tax bill up on the floor and passed before the end of the month, so it's not too far away.
What's your schedule on bonding?
I don't believe the schedule that the staff that I have seen has a schedule on the bonding bill. I think we've said from the beginning we hope to be able to get the budget passed before we take that up, at least from the Senate side. And the divisions are hearing all of the bonding requests that have been sent to them. I personally had four bills up this week in Senator Tomasoni's committee for my district. So they're all getting the hearing, getting the testimony. If the House makes a decision to send a bonding bill over, I remember it has to be a House file, I think the Senate will be positioned to do something on it because the bills have had the hearings and the public testimony.
So do you not expect to have your own bill ahead of time? You'll just take the House bill and do what you want with that?
Well, the divisions are hearing all of the bonding requests, and they will be forwarding to Senator Stump the Finance Division recommendations of what he should include in a bill. So Senator Stump will have all the information from all of the appropriate divisions about what their priorities are.
Senator, you Democratic leaders appear to be adopting a sharper tone going into the last few weeks regarding what the Republicans are doing, saying. Is that true? And giving us this the budget comparisons here, are you concerned Republicans are not offering an alternative?
Well, I think I thought I heard from the beginning that they were not going to offer an alternative, and that's their decision. And if they want to participate in this process and try to bring some suggestions to the table, we're certainly willing to listen to that. But we're going to put a budget together. We're going to put 34 votes up for each bill on the floor and go to conference and get something signed by the governor in May on time, with or without their participation.
Senator, following up on the budget bill, have any of your finance divisions rejected any requests from your members for projects?
Have they what?
Rejected any requests?
Well, they don't.
Has he decided not to recommend any of them?
Historically, it's always been bills have been laid over for possible consideration, and Senator Tomasoni, I think, heard 25 of them, mostly bonding stuff, yesterday. So a lot of requests, but the bonding project I want to do is the Capitol. I mean, so anybody that thinks that I don't think there should be a bonding bill, I think, at an absolute minimum, my request to the Republicans in the House would be, let's take care of, we finally have a governor who has made it a priority to do the necessary restoration on this state capitol. And so that's my request of the House Republicans, because the Senate can't do it on their own. They have to send it over. Let's take advantage of the timing of having a governor that's willing to take that task on and get that, at a very minimum, get that piece done.
Can you all give us a perspective on where you're going to make the cuts in the Health and Human Services budget? There's people back here who are worried about it. Yesterday, the Democrats in the House said, well, we're going to increase cost of living, I think, to nursing homes. Can you tell us specifically where you're going to make cuts?
Well, I think what you have to remember about the Health and Human Service budget area is there's a lot of built-in inflation in that area, and I think it's in the neighborhood of about $700 million of new spending from the current biennium to the next. So, you can always argue whether things are cuts or reductions in the increase or what they are, but they're also in that budget area are a number of different ways to raise some revenue in the bill. And I know Senator Laurie is looking at that. That's not unique to that budget division. Most budget divisions have ways where they can raise revenue in their bill and then spend it in their bill. But, my feelings are very strongly about nursing homes, about facilities that care for vulnerable and disabled people, and I don't expect you'll see any cuts in those areas. I don't expect you'll see any cuts in mental health either.
And just from the House perspective, are you saying cost of living increases for nursing home employees only, or does that go to community-based folks, others who deliver PCAs?
And when we released our targets in this room now a couple of weeks ago, we made it clear that we were not interested in cuts to nursing homes and long-term care. And as the committee is working their way through this process, they are talking about a cost of living increase for people who work in long-term care in nursing homes and in the community. And I await the spreadsheet just as you do, and we should see that next week. But there is a lot of interaction in Health and Human Services and a lot of changes. It's a pretty dynamic budget at this time as we see the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. We see new revenue coming into the Health and Human Services budget, but largely to providers, to hospitals, and to doctors and nurses and clinics. Over the next 4 years, we anticipate there will be about $1 billion in new revenue coming into the Health and Human Services providers in Minnesota as more people have coverage and are getting care across the state of Minnesota. And we knew that as we set that target, and we understand that people are concerned about the future of Health and Human Services. And let me say that in the last budget cycle, I think there was more than $1.5 billion cut in Health and Human Services by the Republican majorities. And I understand people's concern when they see that cut target, but we understand inside that budget there are parts of the budget that are more flush than others. There are parts of the budget that I think can be reformed as a result of changes of coverage for people, especially in medical assistance in the Health health insurance exchange. And we're considering all of those things carefully as we look at that budget target. And I think that when the budget is released, people will understand what we mean when we talk about making cuts, strategic cuts that don't hurt people, and also reforms and efficiencies in that budget.
So it sounds like you're saying there's going to be surcharges on hospitals and HMOs should be concerned because you're talking about new money or finding revenue. Those are the only places you can really find revenue, right?
I think that, I was talking about the new revenue that's coming as a result of the expansion of medical assistance and the implementation of the health insurance exchange.
We might receive more detail.
I mean, without any changes in anything we do, hospitals and other providers are going to see about $1 billion in new money coming in over the next 4 years.
Right. And then there are other mechanisms that the committee is considering.
So hospitals should be worried that if there's $1 billion coming in on the federal level, there may be $150 million going out on the state level?
No. I don't think any one entity should be worried that $150 million is going to be cut from them. We just know that there are places that we can go inside that budget to find that target.
Would you see the details on the House tax plan that's funding all these other things that you want to do?
Yeah, the tax bill will be, it's being worked in process. I don't know if it's going to be rolled out next week or early the following week. I just can't remember the date.
Mr. Speaker, the Minnesota Lottery said this week that they feel that they can expand into electronic gaming, perhaps Keno or even poker if they're called on as a backup plan for the stadium. The stadium law is sort of silent on that. Do you feel that they have that authorization in the stadium law?
No.
Could you expand more on that?
I don't think they have that authorization in the stadium law. That's pretty clear.
Well, they say they do, so they say they might. So
right, and I don't believe that they do, and I don't think that was ever any part of the discussion. So if there's a question of legislative intent, clearly the legislative intent was not to go into those games.
are you concerned about this? Do you feel like the bill needs to be opened?
I am concerned about making sure that we have enough revenues to pay for the bonds, but I'm certainly not in a place of panicking or I think we just need to understand exactly what the lay of the land is, and that's what we've said for a couple months here, and we're still trying to find out that information.
Is it sensible to before this session ends, to get a more clear, firm estimate of the revenues before we let the bonds in August?
I think it makes more sense to get more information about where things stand. I don't think we're at a point right now, though, where, from what I understand, where letting the bonds are going to be an issue.
Meaning they probably won't do it until they know more, or?
Meaning, I think that we're still in a place where they can start to let those bonds, but we do clearly need to learn more and figure out what the lay of the land is.
Senator Bakk, to you as well. I mean, the lottery director said he thinks that this is a decision that's ultimately up to the governor. If necessary, do you think the legislature will revisit this issue and be a little more exacting about what they authorize?
Well, whether the lottery has the authority or not to enter into additional venues really has nothing to do with the stadium, because the money that's committed to the stadium is electronic pull tab money. It has no relationship to anything new that the lottery authorizes. So even if they had that authority, that money's not necessarily earmarked for repayment of the debt service on the stadium.
Well, there is a lottery role, and as one of the blink-ons.
Another game.
Do you think it's limited to a scratch-off game, or do you think that there is some room to interpret how far they can go?
Haven't looked at it.
Where do you folks stand on the Fairview, Sanford, University of Minnesota hospital situation, and should the legislature get involved in this?
Well, I think we're looking closely. University is a public land grant university. I think that the concern about ensuring that we have top flight medical school there, and how does that public private partnership work? I haven't talked to the president of the university, and I know that we just had some exploratory kind of conversations, and the Attorney General wants to look at this issue of Sanford and the university, or Sanford in Fairview. So I don't know if the Speaker or the Majority Leader has talked to anyone. I haven't. I think that it's a fluid situation, and we want to look at it really closely. We want to make sure that we still have all the high-quality care that Fairview gives, as well as making sure that we have a top-flight medical school.
Are you looking at any legislation related to this?
I think it's premature. I haven't heard anybody talk about it, and I'm in Health and Human Service as we speak now, and that hasn't come up yet. So I think it's just kind of a preliminary kind of conversation that everybody is having, and I don't think that there's been any formal conversations over here yet, at least on our side, about that issue.
What about the House?
Well, I haven't talked with anybody from Sanford. I have asked to meet with folks from the university to understand better their perspectives on that, and to also understand a little bit more about what they're talking about in terms of their relationship with Fairview. But until we learn more, I'd like to withhold comment at this time.
Mr. Speaker, at the commission hearing that you held this morning, you heard some preliminary estimates on how sequestration will affect the state. Will that affect your budget-making process at all?
No, yes, I think in the sense of there may be some specific things that we know are going to be impacted by the sequestration, where we may, and that's again going to be up to the committee budgets, but maybe in the area of Head Start, where we'll try to backfill some of that money. I think the clearest message, which was not a clear message coming out of the hearing, is that there's just continues to be a lot of unknowns, and we're going to want to stay in close touch with the federal government, more importantly with the administration, and understanding exactly what those impacts may be. And I think there is a cautionary note in that hearing as well about kind of the future of federal funds, and that certainly is something that we will keep in the back of our minds as we put our budget together.
Senator Bakk, question on guns. There's a Senator Latz's bill pending in rules that has universal background checks and fairly strong language on considering mental health issues and permit granting. The House rejected all that language and has a much weaker bill on the floor. My question is, will the Senate take a floor vote on the Latz bill if the House doesn't go any further than it's already gone?
Well, that decision will be up to Senator Latz. My position as the Rules Chair is we don't amend bills and rules, unless they're clearly technical. So Senator Latz hasn't asked me yet for a hearing on the bill and rules to move it back to the floor. I know he has another bill that's sitting in finance, so there's multiple vehicles, and I don't know exactly how they even line up with their House companions. So I haven't had that conversation with Senator Latz yet because he hasn't asked to have it.
Are you all any closer to reaching a deal with Mayo on this Mayo plan? It sure seems like everything's just kind of stuck.
I would. I actually think that progress is being made just in terms of people understanding more about what the different proposals do, and I think that there's continue to be work done on coming up with a proposal that will keep. That will allow Mayo to continue to expand in Minnesota. Clearly, they're an asset for the state of Minnesota, and we just need to come up with the right solution for that. So I'm still optimistic we're going to come up with a solution yet this year.
Last week, go ahead. Well, I met with Senator Skoye on 2 different occasions this week to talk about that subject, and he's making very good progress, had a lot of meetings with the stakeholders, including the city, and what he told me this week is he thinks they're going to find some language that will be included in the Senate's tax bill.
Last week, the legislative auditor found fault again with Department of Human Services in doing means testing or income verification, and then there was the headline today in the Strip about the backlog of investigations, nursing home abuse cases, things like that. Is there some legislative intervention on tap here when it comes to Human Services or DHS?
Okay.
So, I think a couple of things. Clearly it's something that the committees are looking at. It's never satisfactory when we have departments, and I think a lot of this was actually, predating the current commissioner. But when departments aren't, following through on the requirements that are set, that's a frustration. I also would have to say that, that is a department in particular that's been through a decade of cuts, and pretty heavy cuts in that sense to the actual department, and not having enough people in that department, that also leads to some of these results. So it's something we're going to continue to look at. I think the exchange may help us address some of those problems, and I'm hopeful that that's going to be another one of the benefits of the health insurance exchange. But it's clearly something that the committee is looking at, and that we'll continue to need to keep our eye on. All right. Thank you.